Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord, Nelson, that is.
Basement walls are still covered with our names, like a living canvas of the past. They recognized us by the way we made them shake, an era that was just too good to last. I can see our fingerprints at each and every turn, remnants of another place and time. Funny how this little town ended up just like us, proud and all grown up. I still see pieces of who I was.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I am the Lord. Yes, indeed. Nelson, that is, the big guy with the big show, host of Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And I, once again, have been blessed to have another incredible guest grace my show with his presence. Yes, indeed. This young man is the founder and lead singer for the sensational, can I say that again? Let me say that again. Sensational Band Splitcast, an amazing punk rock band originally from North Carolina, well known for their energetic sound that blends fast-paced riffs, incredible lyrics, and catchy choruses. And I mean this, man. It's amazing. They really are. He's amazing. So their music reflects classic punk rock themes that are insightful, meaningful, and simply an awesome listen. And now, without further ado, I bring to you Greg the Great Shields of Splitcast. Yeah. Gotta clap him up. What's up, bro? What's going on?
How's it going? I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's your world, man. Well, listen, we're gonna get into some questions, of course, but like I said, man, this is just like this is a conversation, man. You know, there's questions there, but it's a conversation. I want you to feel comfortable and good, and we're going to have a good time, man. So let's speak about the genesis, to start it off, of Splitcast.
Okay. So, yeah, Splitcast was a local band here in small town USA, Statesville, North Carolina.
Statesville.
Yeah. Splitcast got started in about 1997, I believe. I was 16 years old and learning to play guitar and in high school. And a couple of guys were in another band, and their guitarist was leaving to go to college. So, you know, they had heard from somebody, I guess, that I played guitar, and asked me if I'd be interested in playing. And of course, I said yes, because that was kind of the thing to do back then. There was a huge music scene around here at that time, and if you played guitar, you played an instrument, you wanted to be in a band. That was always the dream. So yeah, they asked me to play guitar, and I said yes. And then they were like, "Oh, by the way, the guy that played guitar was also the singer. Can you sing?" And up to that point, I didn't really know.
Right.
It's not something I'd ever really tried to do, especially in front of people. So, you know, the first little bit was probably a little bit rough in that regard. But I never really formally learned to sing. I just kind of taught myself and tried to emulate the other bands that I was listening to at the time, and you know, tried to make a joyful noise at least. So anyway, I mean, Splitcast kind of gained traction, but really only in a local sense, regional maybe. The world was very different back then in terms of technology and the amount of reach that you were capable of getting towards an audience. So, I mean, we did the thing, you know, we played out, we got ourselves a van, we traveled up and down the East Coast, you know, trying to make something happen.
Right.
And like a lot of bands were doing at that time, you know, I think we were using the latest and greatest technology at the time, which was like Yahoo Maps, so, which is how we got from place to place in a van with no air conditioning. The radio didn't even work. But I mean, that was some of the fondest memories of my life.
Of course.
Um, so we played up until around 2001, maybe the beginning of 2002, and all kind of parted ways. We had an opportunity in 2001 to sign with a punk label out in California called Betty Rocket Records,
Hmm.
and again, communication was tough. There was no Facebook, there was no texting, there was no instant messaging. It was just emails and long distance phone calls.
Right.
And if you do not hold the attention of somebody for long enough, then their attention will eventually divert to someone else.
Okay.
So we had a couple of setbacks and eventually lost communication with that label. And then everything from there just kind of started to unravel. And then we were getting older and started, going in our own directions.
Hmm.
Um, so that carries us up to about 22 years ago. So what happened since then is, I guess, a different story. I've maintained contact with those guys over the years, and we had always kind of just toyed around with the idea of doing something one day
Hmm.
and putting some music out or just getting together and jam or something. Just it was kind of a pipe dream. We were all in our working adult years of our lives and busy. We all have families now. We have kids.
Yes.
Well, about May of 2023, I was gifted about 4 months of time, and
Hmm.
time is usually what's so hard to come by, sort of in this stage of life. Um, I I guess to backtrack a little further, in at the beginning of 2021, I went back to school full time to pursue a career as a physician assistant,
Hmm.
and so that I did that full time until graduation in May of 2023. Well, when you get done with that, you have several months where there's a lot of things that have to happen as far as processing your new credentials and licensing and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I had about 4 months of time that I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with.
Hmm.
Now, further back in that 22-year gap that I mentioned, I did a lot of songwriting and production, and I was doing demos for other songwriters. So I had my own recording gear, and I still had it. It's kind of old, but I figured, I'll get it out and I'll see if it still works.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I was kind of in this having this wave of kind of nostalgia, and I said, I wonder if I can still write punk rock songs, because it had been a really long time since I'd played like that or sang like that. And part of me just wanted to see if I could still do it. I was like, well, I got time, might as well.
Right.
So I just started putting together these songs, and it turns out that I had a lot more to say than I knew about. Um, Things that had kind of culminated over
Of
the last
course.
20
Yeah.
years of my life, and uh,
Indeed.
you see the world differently when you're in your 40s as opposed to when you're a teenager. So
Right.
yeah, these songs started coming, and before I knew it, I had basically an EP, and I threw it to a guy that I had met several years back and done some editing work for
Hmm.
one of his other projects, because I didn't know anything about marketing music in 2023.
Right.
And I said, hey man, like, what do I do with this? How do I release music, right? In this day and age. Well, come to find out, this guy owned or was a co-owner of People of Punk Rock Records, and I didn't even know that.
Right.
And he was like, this is pretty good, man. He's like, why don't you let us release this? And I was like, okay, well, that was easy. So we released the EP on People of Punk Rock in 2023,
Hmm.
and it had a pretty modest response. I mean, from a relative unknown, most people had no idea who Splitcast was, because we were, like I said, most of the traction we got was just right in our hometown or surrounding area in North
Yeah.
Carolina.
Hmm.
So the name was new. Well, and the first thing that the label asked me when I'd sent them these songs was, "What's your band name?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Well, I don't really have one, because it was just me putting these songs together."
Right.
So, but if the style of the songs, the way I write, is all still kind of similar to what I was doing years ago, just kind of more mature and and cohesive now. So I went back and talked to the guys, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about me releasing these songs under the name Splitcast?"
Mm-hmm.
And they were all like, "100% do it, man." Like they're on board. They're like, this is so cool to see this happen like
Right.
this many years later. Because it's
Indeed.
kind of something we always wanted to do. We always wanted to release records, and um, got to do it. We released one EP back in 1999, but other than that, never really had like a wide release or anything. So it was they were kind of getting to live this out with me, and I kind of
Right.
brought them along with me, which was fun. And it kind of brought us back into contact. We were hanging out again. It was a good thing. So anyway, after that EP, I wasn't sure if I was done or not, if I would go back to that or if I would kind of go into other ventures. And man, the songs just kept coming. Like it comes in waves with me as a songwriter, and it'll dry up, and then all of a sudden it comes flooding back. And so these songs just kept coming out of me. And before I knew it, I had the Shadows on the Street LP, and I threw it back to the guys at People of Punk Rock, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. So,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Well,
Yeah.
You're a creative, man. Listen, it didn't dry up, man. It was always there, man. Listen, it was just a dam that you built up mentally to allow all that to come back up before you released it to the public again, man. But being a creative, man, it never leaves you. It's always
true.
there. You'll always have that itching for it. As far as I say, or how I look at it, man. So no, thank you for that. That's great to bring that to light like that. Once again, listening to your music, it's amazing. I enjoyed it. I was like, man, I really, really am digging this, man. I was just like, okay, he's got me going. So back then, 99, why was punk rock music the music that you listened to, that you wanted to do? Out of all the other music that was out there, genres, why did you want to do punk rock music?
Yeah. So part of it, I think, was just the energy of it. And, when you're young, you don't really know much about the world. So you sort of take on the ideas of the crowd that you're hanging around in, or, certain thing, whatever you're exposed to in the moment. You kind of go with the whims. And, I was learning to play guitar, and those were easy songs to learn.
Okay.
Green Day songs,
of course.
3 power chords, 3-chord songs. That's kind of if you're a guitarist teaching yourself, then that's kind of what you start out playing. You learn how to play power chords and putting simple chord progressions together.
Gotcha.
And then, and it probably has to do with the other kids that I was hanging around at the time, and was seeing what they were into. I was into the kind of the skateboard culture of the late 90s. Punk rock and skateboarding in the late 90s just kind of went hand in hand together.
Indeed.
But gosh, man, when I first heard bands like NoFX and No Use for a Name and Lagwagon and Strung Out and bands like that, Craig's Brother, Dogwood, that style of music, it was so different from anything else. The pace of it, the fast lyrics, the vocal harmonies.
Right.
It was like, here is this intensely fast and aggressive music, and yet it can still be beautiful.
Yes.
The way that, especially, I took a lot of influence from Tony Sly, who was the guitarist and lead singer for No Use for a Name. He could take these fast, aggressive songs and put these melodies to them that were gorgeous. So that was what I felt was so unique about punk rock and what drew me to it in the first place.
Well, look, man, you're saying a lot, because you definitely have that all throughout this music, man. And that is something beautiful that you really do. So what was the first EP called?
The one last year?
No, the first one you did in 99.
Oh, 99. Yeah. So that was a 6-song EP called Last Man Standing.
So Dad, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Last Man Standing. We had, I laugh about this now because, getting the artwork and everything done back then, getting the CDs pressed, I mean, that took months. It took
Of course.
months, literally months.
Right.
And you're passing back, and I'm driving back and forth to South Carolina to meet with these people.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2023, I did it basically through text message,
Right.
and sending artwork and stuff back and forth. It was amazing, just the time gap there and how the experience was different. But we printed 1,000 of those CDs.
Uh-huh.
We sold them locally at our shows. And there's still a few copies around that are still like wrapped like in the plastic.
Gotcha.
So you can still find those floating around at your local pawn shop or thrift store somewhere.
Last man standing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, my question for you is how do you feel you've changed? Even though through all those years, punk rock music is still punk rock music. It's what it is. So how has, from Last Man Standing to Shadows on the Street, how has the music changed, or has it changed at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would say musically, I would say conceptually, the ideas are similar.
Okay.
I'm still a very faith-driven. There's still a lot of faith aspects in my songwriting. I'm probably a lot more adept at articulating myself at 43 than I was at 18.
Right.
I had a very superficial understanding of life in general, including faith and those types of issues when I was 18.
Yeah.
I listen back now to some of those old songs and just kind of cringe at some of the lyrics that I wrote. Yeah, man. It's like I know what I was trying to say, but it's like, when you're 18, I just didn't have the word bank.
Okay.
So I would say conceptually, a lot of the themes are probably similar to what I was writing about, in the Last Man Standing days.
Right.
Musically, there's definitely some similarities, but I think you can see the growth that happens. I did a lot of songwriting, just in general songwriting, not punk rock, but I mean, everything from pop to country to adult contemporary, those types of things. So the songs that I'm writing now are probably much more structured and kind of influenced by the other songwriting that I had done, in those 20 years in between.
Right.
Whereas before, when I was 18, I'm just like, oh, that sounds good. Okay, then the next part's going to sound like this, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the first part, but this seems like it goes here.
Right.
So yeah, musically, I would say similar, but more cohesive, more purposeful. I'm very melody driven, so I like to structure things in a certain way where things build and then they come down and then they explode. Dynamics. Dynamics are important, and so yeah, there's definitely been some growth, but I think if you look back to the original stuff, you'll probably be able to tell it was still the same band.
Got you. Well, how do you maintain your punk rock identity with so much different stuff going on now? How do you stay focused on that?
I mean, I don't know that I try to maintain any type of identity or a punk rock identity or whatever that means. That's the style of music that I like to write in, and I think it's a good vehicle for truth. I think it's a good vehicle for melody. I think it's a good vehicle for aggression. So that's just kind of naturally what comes out of me when I write, and it probably has to do with how I grew up, and that sound is very nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
I don't see it as me trying to maintain a certain image, or I mean, I'm just a normal dude. I wouldn't say I live a punk rock lifestyle by any means. But is from a music standpoint, it's just it's always resonated with me, and that style of music is just very, very special to me.
It's embedded in you, man. No, I get it.
It is, yeah.
I feel you. I just, me, the person that I am, I always tell people I'm not a genre snob. I just love it. If the music is hot to me, it's hot to me. It's just what it is. I don't care what genre it is. If I hear it and it sounds great to me, I'm with it. I'll
Yeah.
I'll play it nonstop like a lunatic. I don't care if it's classical music. I'm gonna play it if I'm feeling it. So I understand what you're saying. It's just just your thing. So
Right on.
can you describe what your recording process is? I mean, how does it come? Or are you just so when I'm things come to my mind, all right, all the time. I'm glad you said melody because I'm big on melody.
Mm-hmm.
Melodies are just so great to me. Stuff that runs through my head all the time, before I get to writing or putting stuff on my iPhone or, leaving stuff on my notes or on the little vocal part so I don't forget what that melody is because it's big to me. So
Yeah.
how is your recording process with you and the guys? Are you doing everything or you guys come together or how's that go?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, when this first started, I had the time. I had the 4 month gap of not doing anything, and
Right.
we're kind of spread out now. Some of us are still local, but there's one of us is a little bit further out. Yeah, I mean, what you're hearing on the record is me.
Okay.
I will say that there has been creative collaboration with some of my former bandmates, and I've also got Brian Sherrill, who is my best friend. We actually we played music together in another band from like 2004 to 2007. And he was the lead vocalist. And if you hear the screaming on the Splitcast record, that is
Yes.
not me. I cannot
Okay.
scream. Yeah.
I definitely was wondering that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can't scream. When I scream, it sounds like Cradle of Filth, which is not the vibe that we need.
Right.
But Brian still has this sort of that, I don't know, guttural early 2000s kind of powerful scream, and it fits so well in these punk rock songs. At least I think it does.
Yeah.
But you'll get to hear more from him, and he's actually a man of many talents as well. So I'm going to get him more involved in the future. But yeah, for pretty much everything you're hearing on these last two releases has been me.
Got you. Love. So during those early days of being in that van and riding around, what do you have anything that was memorable that you can remember that was, I know you do, you have to tell us something that was just like exciting or a little story about something. I really want to know. I'm very visual, so I'm ready to hear this.
Yeah. So yeah, I already got it. So we're riding through like rural Florida, like going down between, like heading down to like Melbourne area, I think. And we're in that long stretch of 95 where there's just nothing.
Right.
It's in the middle of the summer. It's probably 110 degrees outside. Now, you have to understand, again, that this was just a different time. I think maybe one of us had a cell phone.
Right.
So, and we're, 3 or 4 18 and 19-year-old kids riding down through, rural Florida, and our van, and I don't know if we knew this or if we knew about it and just were like, I don't care. We didn't even have a spare tire.
Really?
Yeah. So this was not a nice vehicle by any stretch of the imagination. This was an old utility van with a metal floor in the back. Okay. It's not a van meant to be traveled in. This is like something you go, install.
Working.
Yeah. So this van was legendary, but we had taken a love seat, a small couch, and just put it behind the two front driver seats. We had put carpet samples down because the floor in the back would just get so hot it would literally melt the soles of your shoes.
Wow.
So we had to put carpet down in front of that love seat, and we didn't have enough money to buy a trailer. So all of our equipment was in the van with us.
Right.
And that couch is not bolted to the floor. So anytime you slow down or come to a quick stop, whoever's on the couch has to put their feet on the seat in front of you to keep all the gear from sliding forward. So, and we traveled thousands of miles this way. Now, traveling through Florida, we heard a terrible noise and, felt the van wobbling. So we pulled over and one of our tires was completely shredded. Like
Wow.
not just flat. I mean, it was in shreds.
Yeah.
So, and we're literally in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
19-year-old kids,
Yeah.
maybe one cell phone. I don't remember. I don't even remember if I had a phone then.
Right.
So, we made the choice that I think actually on this trip, we were actually playing as a 3-piece.
Mhm.
So two of us went off walking and our drummer, Chad, stayed behind with the van.
Mhm.
And it was just like, all right, well, I guess we're going to walk and see if we can find something.
Right.
Didn't know where we were, had no GPS. I mean, the next exit could have been 30 miles up the road.
That's right. That's right.
But I was like, well, we can't stay here.
Yeah.
So me and Courtney took off walking and Chad stayed behind. And this is such an amazing story because we probably didn't walk more than half a mile.
Mhm.
And then this little pickup truck pulls over onto the shoulder in front of us. And it's this older couple.
Right.
And, they see two teenage boys walking down the road in the middle of nowhere. And
Right.
out of the goodness of their hearts, they pulled over.
Awesome.
And they ask us if we need help, and we're like, well, yes, actually we do. We're in a band, and we're traveling, trying to get down to Melbourne, and our tire blew out, and we don't have a spare. Right. So, I mean, these people took us. I don't remember how many miles it was down the road, but it was a long way, and took us to where there was a service station. Helped us pay for the tow truck to come get our van, and then take our van to the service station, and then. The poor guy that was running the service station, he kept telling us, he's like, I don't remember what was wrong with the van. Something was busted. But, he was like, I barely even have the tools to fix what you guys need. He's like, I can't believe you're out here like this.
Like a movie.
Yeah. So we were there for hours. He was trying to rig something up to get us back on the road. I don't know what he did. I'm not a mechanical person. He could have, I don't know if he fixed it with tape or if he rigged something up, I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyways, several hours later, we gave him what I think we had $60. And he was like, yeah, well, fine, I'll take it. So we gave him whatever money we had, and then he sent us on the way. And somehow we managed to finish that trip and get back home with whatever he did to hold our van together. But that was a pretty amazing story. And that could have ended up very differently if that couple had not pulled over right when they did and helped us, because I mean, it was miles, and it was, like I said, 110 degrees probably. But that's always a fun one to bring up.
All the stories of all the things that go on, and chasing this dream of being, getting to another level of music, and wanting to be there. And see, it's more than just the money part. It's the love of what we do. And, a lot of people might not understand it, especially in today's time where it's so much that it's money driven. It's like, hey, but there are still people who really love this because it's in us. We love this music. And it's just something to me, I'm one of the most straight edge people that you'll ever meet. But to me, music is my drug. That's my high. I can just listen to music and I'll get to one of these songs we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but, it just does something else to me. Music is a time machine. Speaking about 99, you might hear something that's like, I remember we were in that van, or whatever song you guys were listening to, or in your mind, or thinking about playing, or whatever, and you just, boom, you're back there. It's like those phantom smells or scents when you come out the house. Sometimes it's just like, man, I'm back in 1993. It's just really wild. But just thankful and grateful for those things, man, because they build character. It just, you're able to speak about this story right now, and it's a beautiful story, man, because once again, I pictured the entire thing. So that's really, really awesome. So the North Carolina music scene, once again, there's so much going on there. So back then, was it just punk rock that influenced you, or was there anything else? Because, being from the South, you got country and R&B and all kinds of things. So did anything else influence you at all?
Yeah. So I would say back then I was kind of what you refer to as a genre snob. When when I was 16, 17 years old, it was punk rock or nothing. I just kind of became consumed with it, and
Okay.
it was terrible because you kind of shun everything else. Now,
Okay.
around the early 2000s, once they rolled around, because now back up, late 90s, pretty much everything around here as far as local bands were concerned, it was all punk bands. That's
Right.
that's all that was here.
Uh-huh.
Around early 2000s or so, you started to see other genres. The rap rock
Mm-hmm.
things started
I
happening. I
know
mean,
it.
there was a really popular band in town named Stronghold,
Uh-huh.
that was emulating that sound and did a really good job at it.
Yeah.
And for a while it was like, oh, okay, so that's the popular thing now. Whatever. I'm gonna keep playing my fast punk rock stuff, and
Yes, indeed.
yeah, but all in all, man, like, just the music. There was a lot of things that started to influence me, whether I knew it or not.
Yes.
Some of the riffs and stuff that I was hearing in some of these heavier bands. I started to get into heavier music like early 2000s. I was listening to bands like Thrice and Atreyu, and even like older like metal stuff like Iron Maiden, because I was just a big. I love big guitars.
He's
Love
just
big
old.
guitars. Yeah,
He's old.
and so I mean, in a lot of the later Splitcast stuff, started to have a lot more metal influence to it. I was doing
Uh-huh.
more riffing and more guitar harmonies and things like
Okay.
that, and
Gotcha.
chuggier parts, what
Right.
have you. Um, so yeah, I mean, and then sort of the pop and country and everything that was mainstream. I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't really care for any of that stuff at the time, but at the same time, it's hard to be around things and not have them
Influence
influence
on
you
it.
in
That's
some
right.
way.
That's
Because
right.
that's what pop music is. It's
Yes.
catchy little melodies that get stuck
Yes.
in your head. And then I might have a melody in my head that I heard somewhere in a pop song, and unknowingly used part of that in a punk song.
Right.
So yeah, I think that everything I write is a culmination of all the influences, and it just seems to come out in this sort of punk rock styling. But
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, I definitely had a lot of influences, and there was a lot of great bands, in this area that played all different styles.
Of course, of course. He said Iron, not that Iron Maiden's not old, but it's just that I always, me, I always look at everybody like they're my peer. I don't ever look like they're anybody's way younger than me or way older than me. I'm just right there. And so when I say certain things and then people say, I'm just like, yeah. And then I was like, man, well, I guess Iron Maiden has been around. I was like, you're not like the youngest person. So it just made me laugh, man. So that was cool. So which Splitcast song holds the most personal meaning to you and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, so if we go back to the EP that I released last year,
Mm-hmm.
the EP was called West Broad.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole EP was kind of centered around the song that was also called West Broad.
Right.
Now, West Broad is a reference to downtown Statesville, which was a gathering point for a lot of young people back during that time. It's where we skateboarded. It's where the bands played. It's where the bands hung out. So it was just kind of a moniker for the place to be back then. That song is kind of very near and dear to me because, number one, it's one of the first ones that I wrote when I was writing unknowingly for an EP. And it's really kind of a love letter to that scene. And I wrote the lyrics, and if you listen to the song, you kind of hear how it plays out, but it's talking about like going back to your old neighborhood. I mean,
Right.
this could be a country song easily. It's about kind of going back to your old neighborhood and seeing similarities of things that remind you of when you were younger, and inviting people to come back and reminisce with you.
Right.
And what my wife actually pointed out to me when she was reading the lyrics, she was like, because it's addressing somebody. The lyrics, it's like a letter to somebody, and she says, "You wrote this to your younger self. That's who you're talking to."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, like, yes, like you are exactly right."
Yeah.
So that song holds a lot of personal value to me, just because it's nostalgic. It's really hard to say what is the single most
Mm-hmm.
important song to me personally, just because they all kind of have different aspects of importance. Because I write about a lot of different topics, and they're all important. But
Right.
um, that's certainly one of them. And then on the new record, there's one called "The Story of You and I," and it's a punk rock love song, baby. And it's about relationships in general, but
Right.
there's got to be a give and take to
Yeah.
that relationship. And if you look at just isolated incidents or isolated things within a relationship, it's easy to find, well, this part is not so good, and this part is great, and this part is not great. But if you take kind of a bird's eye view at the whole thing, it's like, yeah, that's a pretty cool story. The good, the bad, the ugly, for better, for worse. I mean, you have to include all of that.
Yes, indeed.
So that's kind of what I tried to capture with that song. And that one's pretty personal to me. Yeah.
Well, I like to say relationships are a WIP, a WIP, a work in progress.
Yeah.
And, we all go through things, and we continue to build. That's what I just say. Hey, I have another chance to be a better person in whatever way it is. So I always say it's a whip, man, most definitely. But so I was going to wait for this, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now since we're talking about these other songs.
Okay.
So as we're talking about this track list, the intro, cool, man. Shadows on the Street, of course, the title track of the album, and the 99, Love It All. So I'm telling you, so I'm just kind of running down. We don't have to go deep into it, but I'm telling you, this is an amazing project. I want you to know that. I truly enjoy that. I know a lot of people say, you say that all the time, but no, I know what I like and I know what I love. And I love this. This is really a great project. And so
Thank you.
You get to The Story of You and I. Love it. I'm just telling you, you got energy, tension, release, melodies, all of that. And let me go to another thing right quick. To me, you can take all of these songs and make them like inspirational, spiritual songs to me. That's the vibe I got. I was just like, he's on the edge of more than just being on the edge. He's there to where you can take this and play it over there without any issue.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, this is really something else, because I'm a writer, so I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm really there. And so I always say that the music gets you, but the lyrics keep you. And so you have that. So I'm just like, oh man, he's just not just running off at the mouth, just talking about anything. These things are meaningful, thoughtful, thought-provoking. You really did that very well. I love it. So now, let me know, I'm fanning out on you right quick, but it's all love. So, Story of You and I, Let You Down, just the titles even just let you know. And so, okay, you have Who I Was, The Flame Won't Die, Morning After, Stand, if you can see some of the stuff playing behind me, I Stand and all those things like that. Now, I want to go back up to When She Finds You. My brother, now I don't know, do you have children?
Yes.
You must have children. So let me tell you something. I have an older daughter, and then I have twins, a boy and a girl. And so my daughters they're my princesses. And, get a little emotional here, but let me tell you something. You got me so emotional when I listened to that song. I got so emotional just thinking about my babies. And they're all grown and doing their own thing, and they're successful and all those things. But man, they are my princesses. And so listening to that, at first I was just like, where's he? And then I was just like, oh my gosh. Then it just made me just sit back. I was just like, wow. So let me tell you something. That one right there, I love all of the songs, no doubt. And I would not tell you any lie, but that one right there got to me. You got to me on that one, man. So tell me about that song, man. Tell me about it.
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah.
So that song is obviously about my daughter.
Yes.
That's her talking in the beginning.
Yeah.
That is a random clip I had sometimes when she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And she would just start jabbering sometimes, and I loved it. So I would just film her sometimes without her knowing it.
Yeah.
Just catching her little spirit, basically just doing what 3-year-olds do. So she just went into some story that she was trying to tell me, and that happened to be what was in the first 14 seconds of that clip, because I knew I wanted something of her talking in the beginning of that song. And so when I basically imported that video, it was a video, into my Pro Tools, that's exactly how it fell.
Oh.
Right before that intro came in with the drum fill.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's perfect. I'm just going to leave that exactly what it is, because that's her. I had written a song for my son after he was born, and it was like a acoustic, kind of slow, emotional song. I had never, I won't say I've never written one. I've never finished one for my daughter, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. It seemed like a tougher task for me to tackle for some reason. I don't like to just put random words on a page and say some cliche lines and then put that out there. I really want it to say something, or to really paint a picture of you, or maybe a concept that you haven't necessarily thought of as a father. And I think it took until my daughter was a little bit older. She's 10 now. She was 3 in that clip that I used, but she's 10 now.
Right.
And now I see that, me as a dad, I'm having a lot of influence over her in terms of what she's going to be expecting when she finds a husband one 100%. Day. I am right now. It's my job to show her what she's worth, and also in the way that I treat her mother.
Of course.
She's learning things all the time. She's watching me.
Of course.
And whatever she sees in me is going to be what she thinks she deserves.
Exactly.
So I better do a heck of a good job.
That's right.
And I better make sure that she understands what she should be getting.
Yes, indeed.
And that's troublesome sometimes, because I'm not a perfect person.
Right. Right.
Because I fail, and I have my faults. So when I was coming up with this concept of When She Finds You, I mean, I didn't have the title. I just knew that there was something there as far as how can I articulate this, that me trying to emulate the type of person she would want to spend her life with without me making the song about me.
Got you.
So I said, well, one way to do that is if I am talking to somebody else. So, and I'm telling them about her.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, who am I writing to? She's 10. And then that's when I was like, okay, but she won't always be 10.
Right.
I'm going to write to the person that she doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the title came from. And I really wrestled with those lyrics for a long time, because I wanted them to really hit.
Yes.
When that hook comes, she'll be looking for who treats her like I do when she finds you. Like, I wanted that to just like, because, and when it hit me, I was like, okay, we're ready. That's and it had the desired effects.
Hey man, I'm an emotional dude, man. You get to me again, man, because I'm telling you, honestly, that's how I feel about my daughters also, man. And you just want the best for them, and I know that they look at me in a certain way, and it is just, man, it's just mind blowing, and of course, our sons, we look at our sons in a certain way, man. It's just like that. Those are our boys. Those are our dudes, it's like, guys, we want them to do certain things and be great also. And you love them the same, but the daughters are just, once again, they're my princesses. And we just look at, as a man, we look at our daughters like we want to protect them. We feel that I feel like, my son's going to be able to protect himself. We give him what we give him, and he'll go out there because he's a man, nothing being chauvinist or anything like that. But our daughters, man, we just look at them like, oh man, we always want to protect them. And my thing is that I always want them to need me. And so when, it's like, hey, dude, I know you're handling business, but if they call me and say like, hey, Dad, I'm like, whoo, that feels good. It feels good that they still need me. So, hey, listen, I get it. I got it. Great song. My favorite song on there because I got so emotional about it, but great, great, great song. But every one of these songs are well thought out. The orchestration, the musicianship, you did a great job, bro. I really, really, really enjoyed it. There's just so many aspects of it and things that are in there. The tension and release of it. Once again, the melodies are incredible. You did a great job with that. Listen, I won't lie to you. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I love music, but I just love the vibe of it. I love the total flow of the album, man. So that's just a great job, man. You and the other guys. So being back with the guys, how has that been? So are the same guys there again going to be there with you, or do you have other players? Because I know you're the foundation of this right now. So how are you doing that? Is it just still you and you're going to bring in players, or are you going to bring in some of the old dudes to do work with you?
Well, like I said, we've discussed it. It's kind of been a pipe dream really for the last 20 years, something we've toyed around with.
Right.
It's been extremely difficult because again, everybody's kind of in similar seasons of life. And when I first brought this back, it really came out of nowhere. I had been completely out of music for the last 8 years, at least. Right. These other guys they've not been involved in music in any way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, we all were just living life basically. And so when this started back up again, it was really just me. I'm the only one that really had time for it. I had the equipment to do it. It's something that, my schedule is kind of conducive to it because I'll have days off during the week when nobody else is here and I can get stuff done. So, I mean, as much as I would like to say that there will be a reunion and shows and, I just don't know how realistic it is. I'll never say never. I'll never say never. But as of now, it's probably going to continue the way it's been. I do want to bring some more people on board and getting them involved in the projects.
Got you.
But as far as any plans for a sustained reunion, no plans for that at present.
I got you. No doubt. So, well, the album is Shadows on the Street. It's an amazing album, ladies and gentlemen. There's no doubt about it. And so, so will you kind of just, so do you have any upcoming shows or anything that you are thinking about doing, projects or collaborations with anybody else? What's do you have planned for the remainder of 2024? So
I have toyed with the idea of doing an acoustic set.
Okay.
An acoustic, it's probably okay for record stores and coffee houses and things like that. Now, Splitcast songs are somewhat challenging to pull off on an acoustic. The more melodic songs, I guess you could say, they're all melodic, but the poppier ones, I guess, are a little bit easier to do acoustically. Right. They don't have quite as much instrumentation happening, and the other ones that do, like Shadows on the Street and Let You Down, things like that, you have to get a little bit more creative with how to pull that off acoustically. But it is something I think is feasible as far as being able to perform. So I'm working on that. I've got about 12 songs right now that I can do acoustically. And like I mentioned, Brian, the guy that screams on the record, him and I are also, I'm looking to get him more involved on the next project. To kind of showcase more of his talents.
Got you.
And and of course, and I'm always writing. I'm already writing for whether it's the next project or I don't know. I mean, I don't know if somebody asked me the other day, like, are you writing for another EP? Are you writing for another album? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just writing.
Just writing.
So we'll see what comes out in the next few months and go from there.
Indeed, man. Well, look, I'm looking forward to it. And anytime that you're anywhere close, or because you're not too far from me now anyway, I'd like to get up there and hang out with Just Nice and you
Yeah.
and vibe to the music. I can't help, Justin's one of the coolest people, one of the most calm people I've ever seen or known in
Yes.
my life. And I like being around him.
Yeah.
When I'm around him, I like to listen a lot.
Yeah.
He can get super deep into some things, and hey, I love him. That's my brother though. There's
And
no doubt.
he was in Splitcast.
Oh, was
Yes.
yeah,
That's kind of how me and him are.
really. So
Yeah.
I don't think he said that. So he was in Splitcast.
He played guitar in Splitcast for probably the last 2 years before we initially disbanded from
Yeah.
yeah, he was
Justin, man.
he brought he brought some kind of different energy to us, man.
Yes, indeed. Justin's one of the great ones, man. He's one of the great ones. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and lock this on down, my brother. Once again, it's been great to have you here.
Thanks
but
for
the last
having me.
question I always like to ask everybody is, what was the last song you listened to?
The last song that I listened to, I'm actually trying to remember. I think it was. God, I don't even remember the name of it, but it was I think it was Psalm 40. It's a song called Psalm 46 by the worship band Shane and Shane. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but they're phenomenal. Yeah.
Man, it just lets me know that you're listening to music. So you said Shane and Shane?
Shane and Shane. Yeah. Two guys. They're absolutely amazing. That's me and Brian, we lead worship at our church, and we play a lot of their songs. Not nearly as good as they are, but we try to get close.
My brother, man, it's awesome, man. Listen, I feel your energy. I feel your spirituality within these songs. Believe me, we don't have to go into get deep into it, but it's there. And just like I said, these songs, even though they're punk rock and that energy's there, you still feel that other vibe there. It's there for me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and I enjoyed it, and I know that everybody else will enjoy it. All they have to do is just give it an opportunity. They're going to enjoy this music 100%. So I
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate you. And the last thing I'll say is that the floor is yours. Let people know where they can check you out and enjoy it like I've enjoyed.
Yeah, so both, or actually all three of these Splitcast releases are available on all your major streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. You've got the EP from '99 that's on there, The Last Man Standing, if you can bear the cringeworthy lyrics. And then you've got the EP West Broad that was released in October 2023, and then of course the newest release, Shadows on the Street, that came out this August.
Yeah.
And there's a lyric video out now for Stand, which is on YouTube, and then there's actually a little bit of surprise coming in about a week's time,
Right.
so you can keep an eye out for that. If you check Facebook or Instagram, I usually try to stay pretty active on there, giving updates. So keep your eyes open.
All right, man. Just listen. Once again, thank you very much. An amazing time. I enjoyed this. I really do, man. Once again, I'm so visual. I've just visualized everything you've said. Thank you for a great album. Thank you for an amazing song that really got me emotional, man. I said, let me go back and listen to this again. Let me listen to this again, man. This one is really, really got me, man. So once again, thank you very, very much for your time, man. Spending some time with me. Taking the time to spend some time is like I like to say, man. So I truly appreciate it. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is yours truly, the big guy with the big show, the Lord. Always got to pause for effect. Nelson, that is, yes, indeed. From Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And my special guest, Mr. Greg Jenkins, the great one, from the band Splitcast. Yes, thank you, my brother. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
No doubt about it.